What kind of morbidities a woman can avoid?
Average Indian woman gains up to 10 kgs of minimum weight. Post-pregnancy, they don't even lose the half of it.
Pregnancy, postpartum and menopause. Where do you think there is a big gap?
A doctor will just tell you, okay, have a good diet. Doctor is qualified only to tell that.
A lot of problems related to lactation.
So these days, undernourished mothers are very less. Other lactating women can also feed their baby.
Once the delivery is over, like nobody counsels a mother.
The baby is well taken care of by everybody. Father, grandparents. But what about the mother?
What inspired you to build Maternita?
I have worked in 5-star hospital. I have also worked in nursing home.
Hi friends, welcome back to our podcast. I'm Dr. Vani, and in today's episode we will be touching upon the most untouched topic, which is a hidden crisis in women's healthcare and motherhood. And to help us understand more about this topic, we have with us Dr. Fatin Mazhar, who is a medical doctor, an entrepreneur, a founder and a co-founder of multiple organizations such as Maternita, Dog Care, Pine and Plum, and Liberty. Welcome to our podcast, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vani. It's so kind of you to invite me to your podcast and give me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Doctor, while I was going through your LinkedIn profile, come across your company or your startup, which is Maternita. What exactly do you mean? Like, I've seen that Maternita is doing some value-added services for women. So what exactly do you mean by value-added services during pregnancy, pre-pregnancy or post-pregnancy?
So Maternita is meaning maternity in Italian. It is an ecosystem of value-adding services. So now if we actually see in our healthcare system, we typically have the system of, the patient falls sick, goes to the doctor, prescription, diagnostic, that's all. So these are the services which enhance the medical services, which enhance the doctor's treatment. So it's hence called the value-adding services. Along with the doctor's treatment, the additional services which support you to get back to become healthy are the value-adding services.
All these services you provide through your company?
Yes. Like for example, we have the nutrition therapy, physiotherapy, childbirth classes where the mothers are educated. We have mental health counseling, psychological support, which is given for breastfeeding mothers. We help with lactation and, the other supporting services.
Okay, so all these services, like you connect with clinics, hospitals, or directly to the patient, or both?
So we have it both. We have B2B as well as B2C. B2B is where we go to the hospitals and we tie up with the management over there, the hospital over there, and we provide the staff like a third party. We are the vendors for them. B2C is both online and offline. We directly provide these services.
These services are very important in today's world, I feel. Like doctors, when they see a patient, like myself being a doctor, so I know the scenario, what happens inside an OPD clinic. So when a patient comes to the doctor, they just ask the problems and they write the treatment and that's it. Next. So especially pregnant women, like so much is involved when a woman is pregnant or when they want to get pregnant and all. So I think there's a lot to be educated for the patient and all.
If we go 100 years ago, the life expectancy of a human in India was around 32 years of age. But then over the 100 years, through research and through awareness and through various reforms and development of our healthcare ecosystem and infrastructure, the life expectancy has crossed 60 years in both men and women. So that tells us that, we have to a level conquered the mortality rate. Right? If you go back again in our early 1900s, the Nilofer Hospital was established, right? What was the reason? It was mainly for the mother and children. Why? Because maternal death during childbirth, deaths of children. But then over the 100 years, we have conquered mortality rates to a large extent. The rate of mortality in childbirth has come down to a large extent. But what about morbidity? Nobody has concentrated on morbidity. If these women are living their lives up to 60 years, how is their health overall? So a doctor alone cannot do a lot of things. First of all, the number of doctors to the population of India is very less. The ratio is not as required. Right?
Even the population in India.
Even the population. Exactly. So, one doctor has to cater to a large number of patients. So, first of all, the doctor might not have so much of time. And again, doctors are educated, they study the human body, they study the human organs, and they are taught to treat them, the pharmacology to treat them. They are not taught about, what diet a person should eat. They are not fitness experts or physiotherapists. They're not graduated in, teaching you, what exercises you should be doing. There are various fields which they are not being educated into. So this is where all these services and these people who have been graduated in that specialty come forward. Like the nutritionist. The nutritionist, she is being graduated, qualified enough with a degree to tell you how much of food to have, what calories, how many calories to be taken, which food is good for you, which food has what vitamins, which are the ingredients required for you. And the same for the other specialty.
If you have to explain what exactly is morbidity for the common people.
See, coming down to the term, morbidity means sickness, basically. Morbidity means a disease which, reduces your physical capacity, etc. Morbidities are all your chronic diseases, what you have, like your diabetes, hypertension, thyroid, etc. Yeah, defining morbidity is this. And if I specifically talk about women morbidities in their reproductive life, then we come up, during the menarchal period when they get their menarche and they have their periods. Women develop PCOD, they have irregular periods, they have pain during periods. So, that phase is there. There's a lot of hormonal changes which happen into your body, etc. And then when you come into pregnancy, a lot of women put on a lot of weight, right? And they become obese over the time. In every pregnancy, a lot of women tend to put up 8 to 10 kgs of weight, which they carry on later in their life, which leads to various morbidities, diseases like, diabetes, hypertension. During pregnancy, they develop diabetes. During pregnancy, it leads to preeclampsia, that is high blood pressure during pregnancy. And, if not controlled, might leads to fits and the death of the baby. And later on, the mother might become hypertensive. These things get carried on in the future.
Yeah, I think it's not like either white or black. It's like the gray shades are
Exactly.
neglected. Like either the mother is completely healthy or like very sick or like death or whatever. But the middle part is very ignored or neglected. And most of the time people focus on like baby's fine, baby's eating well, whether like everything on the baby, which has to be there.
Yeah.
But most of the time mother tends to neglect herself and all these things. So I think what you are doing and your company is doing is very impressive, and I hope it reaches more people. And one more thing, as you were telling about the menarche and pregnancy, post-pregnancy, postpartum and menopause. So during all these phases of a woman, where do you think there is a big gap in the current healthcare system?
Starting in your reproductive life, which starts when girl starts getting her periods, that is the menarche, to the menopause is your reproductive life, what we call it. So, there's a gap in every sector, okay? When we talk about the value-adding services, it's also about, adding the quality to life. They have irregular periods, which is not addressed at a lot of places. PCOD comes in. So, a proper diet, exercise, lifestyle changes, etc. So, that is only again limited to a doctor's consultation these days. They get a scan, they go to a doctor, that's all. Okay, they're not sent to these life coaches or fitness coaches where, they are actually taught about these lifestyle changes. And the major gap, what you see is during the pregnancy. Coming to the nutrition part, the mother is asked to eat for two, which is not actually the scenario. The mother should be eating and gaining weight according to her body type. The mother's BMI is to be calculated, the body mass index, which is calculated using the mother's height and the weight, and the amount of weight is given to her. So on a very rough scale, if you see, a mother needs only plus 350 calories per day to be taken extra and nothing more than that, right? She doesn't have to keep on hogging on food because, she's not going to eat for two people. Exactly. So again, you calculate the BMI And if your BMI, if the mother is underweight, if her BMI comes below 18, then she can gain up to 16 to 18 kgs of weight during her pregnancy. She's given a liberty. But if the mother's BMI is normal, coming between 18 to 24, if that range is there, she can gain between 12 to 15 kgs of weight for a normal lady whose BMI is normal. But in case if you're overweight, that is your BMI is above 24, then she should be gaining within 12 kgs, not more than 12. And if her BMI goes above 29 and if she falls into the obese category, then she doesn't have the liberty to gain a lot of weight. Like, between 5 to 9 kgs, not more than that. So, this gap is never filled in. A doctor will just tell you, okay, have a good diet. And the doctor is, qualified only to tell that. But then nutritionist plays the role over here. And then about the other services, no exercise during pregnancy. Okay, that is the biggest myth. Okay, you cross 12 to 16 weeks of your pregnancy, that is around 3 to 4 months of your pregnancy. You can do regular brisk walking. You can do exercises possible until and unless you're a high risk pregnancy, like, if it's a twin pregnancy or you have a low lying placenta. Or you have some autoimmune disease, etc. In those given conditions, you're not asked to do aggressive exercises or something. I think in all conditions, you're asked to walk. Walking is the basic thing what everybody can do. But there is no concept of bed rest in pregnancy, because pregnancy is not a disease. It is a normal condition, what a physiological condition, what a mother goes through. After that the mother is not educated properly. The preparedness, at homes everybody keeps telling that every lady goes through, you will know as it comes, you will know as it goes. So it's not like that. The mother should be knowing, this is my first trimester, what will I go through? This is my second trimester, what will I go through? This is my third trimester, what will I go through? What am I expecting in labor? What are the other pain relief methods I can do during labor, during childbirth? What will I go through? The mother should be prepared for that. That preparedness is not there. And, honestly talking, a doctor has the knowledge, but doctor doesn't have the time to give you so much. Ideally, a doctor cannot give you a 1-hour consultation. In that scenario, what happens? That gap is created where the mother doesn't have knowledge. People start Googling, and now you know how Google is
overwhelmed
these days.
with information, what to follow, what not to follow.
Everybody is putting some reels. If they are educated
not qualified,
enough. Exactly. They're qualified or not. Everybody is putting. So the mother is also confused. Okay. And then post-delivery, how to take care of your child, about lactation, breastfeeding. There are a lot of cases of postpartum blues, etc., which are coming up. Okay. These gaps are never addressed or, never filled in our place. So I think, what people actually say that, oh, she's working at home and she, our mothers did the regular work and everything and all. Don't you think the household work was so effective? Then all the women in India would be having perfect figures like, all the models and actresses. Don't you think? So again, this is where, as time goes, we need to develop ourselves. And so much of research work is being done and we've been given, so we should be utilizing it. The household work will never count in your exercises ever. Typically, the household work never counts under your exercise.
That's true. Like when I was monitoring my steps while not walking and just doing regular work, the steps never cross 1,000 or 2,000. You have to go out and walk, because these days we have all machines do everything, like washing machine and mixer grinder and all this. So it's better to have that exercise like advice and do accordingly.
Guided exercise and diet should be done, because they just tell ki you eat the home cooked food. That's enough. No, it's not enough. Most of our Indian foods and curries, etc., are very unhealthy. It has so much of oil, etc., that helps you put on so much of weight. So again, the point is it has to be guided.
I think like even doctors who go through pregnancy and all these things, like we ourselves don't know what to eat, because I've seen doctors going through GDM, PIH and all these things. We don't exactly know what to eat, what not to eat perfectly. I think they should take help of nutritionists and dietitians Like especially if
Definitely.
they have a risk factor or a family history
True
of
that.
diabetes and all that. I've seen multiple doctors go through the same situations.
So ideally, only except a few institutes like, Fernandez, Rainbow, Apollo Cradle, Yashoda, etc. Until and unless you go to the high-end corporate hospitals, there is no concept of an in-house nutritionist or physiotherapist in most of the hospitals. Even if you come down a step down, at a semi-corporate setup also, you don't find these services in-house. On demand they get it, and that is like once upon a time. So the concept of these services is not there at these hospitals. Even as doctors, for me, for like if some patient is having GDM, okay, as a doctor, I can then cut down on your glucose. This is what I have been taught, this is what I can do. The next step, what a doctor can do is prescribe you medicines, prescribe you insulin. And then if I see something that where you are having a sedentary lifestyle, I can tell you, do an active lifestyle, do some exercises, do walking till you sweat. This is all I have been qualified enough to tell you as a doctor. A nutritionist will, if a patient is diagnosed with GDM and then we are sending it to the nutritionist, they cut down all the food that increases glucose in your body, they cut it down, and then they put up those types of foods that provide compensation to it. There's, for example, you cannot eat mango. Mango has a lot of benefits, right? It is not just about glucose, right? If you are not eating a mango, how do you compensate it out? How do you get all the other vitamins and ingredients to your body?
Correct.
Right. So a nutritionist is being qualified to tell you that. Again, with the exercise, depending upon your body type and depending upon the symptoms of pregnancy, how do you make your body flexible so that, for promotion of a normal delivery, they are qualified enough. As doctors, we are not.
Regarding this infertility and irregular periods and PCOS, we are seeing a lot of cases about this. So, like, how much importance is given to these conditions in the current healthcare system?
Ideally, what I feel is that the girls have PCOD and they have set of irregular periods and everything. Okay, so even the family doesn't concentrate so much of it because, they feel now what is the need of it? Until and unless she gets married and then, she's planning to get pregnant. Till then, the problem is not addressed. I feel even as individuals, people don't address it till needed. And even as we doctors, we just tell them, okay, fine, you need to just do your lifestyle changes. Either you need to lose weight, etc. That is all we tell them. Right? We don't start, emphasizing on it until and unless there is a need. Until and unless the girl is married and is trying to conceive, etc. Till then, we do not push for it. But then, from the beginning, if the kids have been put into, their BMIs are checked regularly, they've been put into a proper diet where, regularly eat properly, have a good lifestyle, etc. and everything. So in that part, I think these value-added services come in. See, even honestly talking as a gynecologist, what will she do? She has some irregular periods, she can just give you some hormonal periods for withdrawal bleeding if she's not getting periods. That's all. But at the end, these problems are to be taken up by the other holistic care services.
I mean, along with that, they can take your services also. So they'll advise like what to do, what not to do, how to monitor, when to alarm, when to feel alarmed, and when to consult. All these things will be taken care of.
You're doing it correctly or not. That is the most important thing. What you're doing is correct or not. Only an expert can tell you.
Suppose if a woman is pregnant, as we were discussing in the starting of our talk, what kind of morbidities a woman can avoid and how can they avoid?
Talking about the morbidities, the diseases which they get is first most important is GDM. First, this is the India is the capital for diabetes. So it is there that, every second person is there at the risk of developing diabetes. Our parents have diabetes, etc. So first, as the doctors, they have a standard rule now. Okay, by 16 weeks of pregnancy or by 24 weeks of pregnancy, they get them tested for an OGTT test is done. And if you're diagnosed whether you have diabetes in pregnancy or not. So now here, first again, is exercise plays an important role. You burn out your extra glucose by doing exercise. And again is on a diet. So when I was working at the Fernandez Hospital, There I had seen that, around 50% of the patients who had GDM, their sugars got controlled only by diet.
Without medications.
Without medication. Tell 50% of the women. Right?
Yeah.
It's on if they were following the proper diet given by the nutritionist. Only in a few cases, as the pregnancy moves towards the end, etc., the sugar start fluctuating, and only if they had to take up any medicines or insulin, that was during, only last 2 weeks of their pregnancy mostly. Otherwise, most of them, it was only diet which controlled it, which I feel is missing. Diabetes hai, you go to a doctor. And I feel not only during pregnancy, it's also during, how many of the diabetologists have an in-house nutritionist? How many of general physicians have an in-house nutritionist in their clinic? Right? The first step should be your diet.
Yeah.
If your diet is able to control, then you go to medicine. But then again, the people just want to just pop up pills and the doctors prescribe it. That is what is happening. Other morbidities during pregnancy can be preeclampsia, pregnancy-induced hypertension is there. Again, that is, there are many factors to it, but one of the factors being is increased progressive weight gain during pregnancy. Again, that leads to various issues, etc. There are chances of getting into DVT, then into eclampsia, that is, they get fits due to increased BP, etc. That might also lead to fetal death. Third one, which I would address, is obesity. Every pregnancy, an average Indian woman gains up to 10 kgs of minimum weight. And then post-pregnancy, they don't even lose the half of it,
Correct.
of the weight they gain, and they struggle it, and that carries on with them till they die. So, these are the three, I think, major diabetes, in pregnancy-induced hypertension and obesity are the major things what right now in India, what I can say people are facing.
Suppose if you take a urban setting, so they will be regularly going to a doctor, gynecologist, regular checkups,
Yeah.
monthly checkups and everything. So these monthly checkups, why can't these problems addressed? Like, don't you think that is sufficient because they'll be going for regular checkups?
When they're going for the regular checkups, now, according to the Ministry of Health, minimum of 4 checkups. Okay, even at a government hospital, minimum of a pregnant lady should be going off minimum of 4 antenatal checkups. And then if you come to in private sector and everything, we see patients turn up at the hospital every month. Regular protocol has been made, in which months you should do a scan, at what months you should be doing what tests, etc. That is being done. But again, as I have told you, the test is being done. Like, for example, OGTT is done. But then you've been diagnosed with a disease. Then what after that? Either you're directly put on meds, or there is they're just left like that. They're not sent to the expert. They are just told you cut down on sugars. And now, for example, a person is an engineer. They will do it according to their knowledge. If they have to cut down sugar, they don't know which fruits have the which increase your glucose level, etc. Sugar cut down means just not having sugar. That is the thing what they do.
Correct,
they don't
correct.
cut down on the fruits or vegetables which increases their sugars, or other food ingredients which increase their sugars.
No.
So again, they are not they've been diagnosed. We have reached to the point where we are making the diagnosis. But then there is either a do or die situation here, what I feel. Either you go, you take meds, or you do nothing about it. But then there is as you said, a gray area in between, right? If a mother is GDM and her sugars can be controlled with diet, then she would never have to go on medicines during pregnancy or take up insulin during pregnancy, until and unless it's like her body type goes very uncontrolled or something like that. Right. So this is where all these expertise come in.
Yeah, and as you said, once they are early stage, if you can provide these services, we can prevent
Exactly.
that uncontrolled from them getting into that uncontrolled stage also.
So this is where we come up with the childbirth classes. So there the mothers are educated. Okay, they finish up their first trimester. You educate them in the first trimester. Okay, where they are taught, where you have a lot of nausea, vomitings, feel like eating anything.
Correct.
Okay, there, the mothers are taught what diet to take at that time, and, what they should be eating, which will not lead to further nausea or vomitings, etc. for them. Yet they are to be guided during depending upon their symptoms. The first trimester, they feel lazy, they feel lethargic, etc. Then once they get into the second trimester, And the first trimester, they have to avoid a lot of things because that is the major time when the baby gets developed, to avoid medicines, etc. Which is told everybody knows that. And it has been very roughly told to them. But they're not properly trained for it.
Yeah.
Then once they get into the second trimester, they should be regularly exercising, regularly walking, regularly trying to do exercises, etc. And from time to time, they can take up services like, we have prenatal yoga, etc. And then when it comes to the third trimester, very close to the pregnancy, they should be, be prepared for the delivery. They should be told, what is the delivery going to be like. For a first-time mother especially, you know. She should know how the labor pains are going to be, identify the labor pains, how, if there's going to be water break, etc. How does she identify everything for herself? She should know what should she be going through. It shouldn't be like a surprise for her. The more she's prepared, the outcomes are also better. Now the baby is given to her. What does she do with the baby? It's for the first time. Looking at a video or listening to somebody is very different to actually holding it on and breastfeeding your baby. How do you hold it? What are the different positions? What are the do's and don'ts? Right? The mother should be trained for it.
Yeah, as you said, like these prenatal classes and all, only very few top-notch hospitals are providing, and those are quite expensive. Like there's a certain package you have to take, and that is like not affordable to everybody. What I have noticed, like so only few people are able to take those classes and all. So like as you are providing these services, like do you have these services within affordable cost or something?
So coming down, the childbirth classes are to be taken up by a team. Okay, there you need to have a doctor in the team. You need to have a midwife if available in the team. You need to have a physiotherapist, you need to have a nutritionist, you need to have a lactation expert and a psychologist if required. So this is a class taken by a team. This is not a one-person show. So everybody has to play a role and everybody has to play their part in this childbirth class. So now when this happens, these are only happening at corporate hospitals, or you can call the 5-star hospitals at a premium cost. These services, again, if you even come down to a semi-corporate setup, the hospital is also not providing, the people are also not aware or taking up these services. A lot of online portals have come up from Bangalore, etc. But, people are not aware of taking up these services. People do not have the knowledge. They just think, okay, whatever is there, I'm going to go. The doubts I have, I will ask my gynecologist. That's all. So they are not aware, first of the thing. And again, you were talking about the affordability. Yes, we are trying to bring down the cost so that we are able to even provide it to the low socioeconomic sector. For example, 1,000 rupees is there per class. One class is there which is costing 1,000 rupees. A family whose entire income is only 10 to 15,000, do you think will they think of buying a class or going to a class which is for 1,000 rupees? No, they wouldn't. They would think, everybody over generations didn't attend the class and
why to waste?
Exactly. Why do we put up the money, right? And healthcare is for all. Okay, just because you are able to go to a premium hospital and you're able to go to a premium place, that doesn't mean it's not a perk. This is what everybody needs. It's a need. For everybody. Everybody needs it. So, we are trying to bring down the costs.
Okay.
And how are we bringing down the costs is that, see, every year we have multiple nutritionists who graduate. Many of them do not even find a job because 2 tier 3 hospitals do not hire them. It's just the tier 1 hospitals who majorly hire them. And what are their salaries?
Very
15
less.
to 20,000. Maximum 15 to 20,000.
Yeah.
And if she becomes a senior, if she or he becomes a senior person, they get around 25,000. A physiotherapist will get maximum 35,000 or 40,000, not more than that, right? That means that, if they are trained and they have been put into these jobs, it's very easy to bring down the cost, right? Given the salaries and the number of people who are graduating out first year, it is very easy to bring down the cost.
So I think your team is trying to make it affordable, all these services, to as many people as possible.
Exactly. So, I have worked in two different sectors. I have worked in a five-star hospital. I've also worked in a hospital where we would do normal deliveries in 7,000 and cesareans in 15,000.
Oh,
There's a large gap. I've seen there. People here get these services. People here do not get these services.
correct.
Right.
So you're trying to bridge the gap or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Because, this is again not a luxury and this is a need.
It's important actually.
And health is for all.
Seeing you, what your team is doing, I think many other people or much more companies will come forward. I think, like as you said, regarding this value-added services, which include like nutrition therapy and weight management, how effective are they going to be for a pregnant woman, and how positive outcome they will bring for a pregnant woman?
See, again, if she's going to have a smooth weight gain, going to have an active lifestyle where she's regularly doing exercises, if she takes up a prenatal yoga and if she's continuously doing that helps her out a lot. Her body becomes very flexible. During the labor, it helps out a lot. And then post labor, the recovery is also very fast for the mother. For example, if we are talking about a normal woman with a normal weight, normal BMI, and she gains around 12 kgs of weight, and soon after birth, we expect another 3 to 4 kgs to fall down immediately. And in that, she's left with some 9 to 10 kgs of weight. Now, if she's been exercising regularly, which she follows after her delivery also, and a proper diet, then she tends to lose that weight very easily. Right? And most importantly, she doesn't develop these diseases of diabetes or hypertension. It's a properly moderated lifestyle. Then she will not fall into all these diseases like diabetes, hypertension, or obesity, etc. Mainly, these things.
I think a woman has diabetes and hypertension during pregnancy. Majority of them will end up having for your lifetime. Only very few will revert back to their normal.
Ideally, with diabetes, is that first important factor is your family history, your body type, and your weight. Matters a lot. After that, in case if you develop diabetes in pregnancy, soon after the delivery of your baby, your sugars will become normal. But this is an indication that in future you're going to develop diabetes.
Yeah. So we can avoid that, like with weight management and nutrition.
It's an early indication for you that you should be working on your lifestyle, your diet, and everything, and not just hogging on anything and everything. And then it's similar for the hypertension also. Genetics and other factors also play an important role, but this is one of the important roles, and that helps you push the disease to as much as possible to the later part of your life. You are at an age where your body is not able to compensate. That can be above 60, above 70. And again, the concept of everything is here about quality of life. It is not just about not getting the disease or just living to the longest age possible. It is not like that. It is about till even if you're living a 60-year-old life, what is the quality of life you're living, right? You wouldn't want to live with diabetes, right? 30 years with diabetes, or you wouldn't want to stay obese and struggle with your weight and etc. throughout your life. It's again about quality of life also matters here.
I think like with proper nutrition therapy and all this, their energy levels also will be up to the mark.
Exactly.
During pregnancy, post-pregnancy, because I've seen a lot of people, including myself, like we tend to normally complain of low energy levels during pregnancy, during postpartum and all these things. So just because of not knowing what exactly to eat, what good protein or good food, good fats and all those things, we either like completely avoid certain sugar foods, as you said, or we just eat the regular food. We don't try to add in some essential required nutrients like calcium. New mother might need more calcium foods, more fiber rich, more all these antioxidants and all these things. The mother will feel much more confident and more energetic and happy. That will reflect on the baby also.
Definitely, it will overall reflect on the mother and the child. See what happens if I put on a very smaller factor also. If you are having a very good diet, okay, you're following a proper diet guided depending upon your body type and everything and all. For example, you're bloating, You tend to have a lot of bloating during pregnancy.
Hmm.
Okay, that again leads to acidity, nausea, etc. Right? Once you are not bloated, okay, and this has been not with any medicines or something, only your regular diet, okay, you're eating on time, you're eating the correct food and everything, and you're also doing exercise and having a good lifestyle overall. What happens at the end of the day when you're not bloated? You don't feel irritated. You feel like moving about, doing your work happily.
Yeah.
And it is not like, once you're bloated and you're having that nausea, you're feeling agitated, and already in pregnancy, they have a baby who is kicking, and
Yeah.
the other symptoms of pregnancy are coming in. The mother will definitely be irritated, etc. So now what happens, if the mother is settled with the other symptoms, following a proper guided routine actually, then the mother is also at peace. She can concentrate on all the work she has to do and on a lot of other things. But in case if her health inside, like a minor thing of bloating is also there, that irritates you a lot. Now if the mother is internally feeling good, you're at rest, and then
Yeah.
you're at peace basically.
Correct.
And you can
correct.
concentrate on a lot more other things, on your work.
Yeah, who are trying to achieve happy pregnancy. Like everybody preaches, right? Older grandmoms and all, they say. Like the other day we were discussing in a podcast with a gynecologist, like generally in olden days, grandmother or mother used to say, keep her happy, make her happy and all. But it's not taken into account. So with
Exactly.
all these physical problems also, you're trying to make a pregnant woman happy during her
Yes.
pregnancy with all your services. And one more thing, doctor, like this exercise during pregnancy, there are a lot of myths regarding exercise during pregnancy, including like myself. Even I thought like you're not supposed to do exercise during pregnancy. First pregnancy is precious and all these things. And so what are the common myths you come across like exercise
Yeah.
during pregnancy?
So as you told, first thing you told me about having a happy pregnancy. Again, what happens, here, when you go and take your diet, or you go to a fitness trainer, physiotherapist, etc., everything is personalized according to you, right?
Correct.
So if a lady is there and you advise her to eat green leafy vegetables, and you're asking everybody to eat spinach, okay, that is not possible for everybody to eat spinach. Some might like and some might not. But then what happens once you have a personalized diet of your own, your food is given to you as per your likes and dislikes. Keeping in mind your likes and dislikes, your requirements are also covered. Otherwise, pregnancy, during the pregnancy, the woman is struggling and she doesn't want to drink the milk, but she is just forcing herself to drink it. And that also irritates you a lot. So, the happiness factor adds on here also, where you get things as per your choice, fill in the criteria of being fit and being healthy and covering all the nutrients required for you during pregnancy. So coming to about the myths during the exercises during pregnancy, yes, that's an age-old thing. Pregnancy is there, so you shouldn't walk, you shouldn't do anything, you shouldn't take, even they say, take large steps. You should take small steps during pregnancy, and you should be taking bed rest.
Yeah.
You see a pregnant lady standing, you offer her a chair. If you see
Correct,
her
correct.
holding on something, somebody tends to help them. Right? That is what is all a myth. Okay, pregnancy is a physiological condition. Until and unless your pregnancy is high risk, you're carrying twins, or you have a low-lying placenta, or you have any other conditions where, rest is very important and there are chances of you losing your pregnancy. Other than that, in a normal pregnancy, you're fit and fine. You can do anything and everything. So given these factors of our Indian society and everything, so the gynecologist, or we also tell everybody not to do anything till 12 weeks. Get your NT scan done. See that your placenta do not have a low-lying placenta, and everything looks perfect in the NT scan, a 12 to 14 week scan. And then you can start doing your walking and everything. We advise them to do brisk walking. Okay. They can do the regular exercises, butterfly, stretching, squats. We teach them exercises with the partners, and to do exercises with their normal household things, like, exercising with your chair at home, or simply use a table, on bed and off bed. They can sit down and get up by themselves. There is nothing that, pregnant ladies should not be sitting down or she should only sit up or rest up. So I'd like to share one experience. I had met a patient during her second pregnancy. First pregnancy, she had a normal delivery, and then during her second pregnancy, and then she started showing us pictures of her photo shoot. And she's doing prenatal yoga, and she, during pregnancy, she's completely bending down backwards and doing the chakrasana during the pregnancy. She's been exercising all through the time so that, she's made herself like that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah.
And in fact, the same patient, she was a very enthusiastic patient, concentrating on her fitness and diet and everything. So ideally at 38 weeks, she delivered in her first pregnancy. During her second pregnancy, it was 39 weeks.
Okay.
And the labor pains did not set in yet. So somebody told her that, you should go on a boat. So what happens when the altitude changes a little bit, then you will set into labor easily. So she literally went to Durgam Cheru for boating. Did that, and the next day she came and told us that, yesterday I did that. So within 2 to 3 days, I'm going to have labor now.
Yeah. Okay, maybe like contractions will start.
With
that.
See, suddenly the pressure, when you get into a boat, what happens is suddenly the pressures fall.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. Yeah.
So,
but very rarely people believe and go through. They're like very scared to risk their. I mean, they think it's risky.
I know. See, 80 to 90% of us are all normal. Only 10% of them will be having some major conditions where we can't do.
Yeah.
So I just felt like if she can do, another 50% of us can also do that.
Correct. Even after delivery, also people are not advised to exercise. So how true is that?
I think once your baby is out, I think you are fit to do everything.
Okay.
Okay. And even if you have a cesarean, it is just for 6 weeks that you are not advised to lift weights. Okay. Or do anything aggressive. Myth, I feel it is a personal thing of, feeling tired with the baby, and they just feel lazy and they don't do it. The entire concentration is on the baby. They ignore the mother.
Yes.
So the mother is completely ignored. Yeah. So, if you go to countries like China, Taiwan, Thailand, Singapore, okay, they are centers. They are like proper rehab centers which are made for the mothers. So she will deliver the baby in the hospital and then go to these centers for the next 40 to 60 days.
Oh.
Yeah. It is like a proper rehab. Like, you have a room for the patients where, all the holistic care is given to the patient, right? It is something for the mother. There's a nurse or a midwife assigned to each mother.
Yeah.
And the midwife takes care of the baby, and the baby is given to the mother only during feeding.
Okay.
They stay in the same room with the mother.
Yeah.
The baby stays in the same room with the mother. It is a midwife or a nurse taking care of your baby. And during this 40 days, the mother is made to do exercise. She is given a good diet. And in these countries, they eat like a lot of other animals also. So they have their own set of ancient old recipes for the new mothers. So, they have different types of soups, etc. So they give this to this mother during their 40 to 60 period of time, where she concentrates on her well-being. She exercises, she takes good diet, she works out on her body. While the nurse and the midwife is always there for her support and to support the baby for her. But here, everything, the mother is ignored. Everything is about the baby.
Yeah, that's true.
Over here.
I think that little investment for the mother during pregnancy and post-pregnancy, it's like an investment for herself on herself.
Exactly.
Because she has a lot more to do for the next 40, 50, 60 years.
Exactly.
For the baby and for the family.
See, it's not just for the baby or for the family. It's about for herself also.
Yeah, that's what. Like unless and until she invests in herself, her health, she'll be able to do her responsibilities much better later on in life. But most of the people are ignoring that part.
Yes. See, most of the women are working these days.
Yeah.
They get a maternity leave of 6 months. Okay, if her pains and illness, etc., continue post 6 months, how will she concentrate back on her work? So, if you see most of these mothers take a very long break or quit working after their deliveries, after having babies, because they are told, no, you just have to take care of the child now, that is your first priority. But I think herself is the first priority.
Correct.
she has to be healthy enough or fit enough
Hmm.
to take care of her family.
Yeah.
So first, I think it is for her and then for the child and the family.
Yeah. If she is healthy, automatically everyone around her will be healthy.
Exactly.
Doctor, like regarding this yoga, how effective is yoga? Because there's a lot of hype about yoga and all. But again, when it comes to pregnancy and all, how safe it is?
Yoga, again, for any type of exercise, yoga is a type of exercise, and for any type of exercise, you are a low risk pregnancy. You don't have any high risk factors in your pregnancy. You can do any form of exercise. Yoga is a type of exercise. That's all, right? And you specifically have prenatal yoga, which is specifically to be done during pregnancy, okay, which is not inclusive of anything and everything. So, yoga is absolutely safe. It's not a hype, it is just a form of exercise which is being promoted, because yoga is something which originated in India,
Huh.
right? So the government and the healthcare system, the ministry is trying to promote it because it is something which originated in our land.
Hmm.
So it is just another form of exercise.
Hmm.
That's all.
Hmm.
And not anything and everything is done during pregnancy. You have specific prenatal yoga which is to be followed. So it's absolutely safe if you are a low risk mother without any high risk factors in your pregnancy.
Guided by help of experts.
Exactly.
So if someone is doing yoga, they can avoid exercise.
See, yoga is again a form of exercise.
So no need to do walking and other squats and all. Like
See, in yoga, you kind of tend to do a lot of squattings, etc.,
Everything,
and
yeah.
all is covered over there.
Mm.
And walking is again a different part
Okay.
of it. You do a lot of stretches, etc., in yoga, but again, walking plays a different role.
This is to burn calories, and that is for improving flexibility.
Yeah,
and
yoga is
strengthening.
again, yoga also burns calories. This is mainly, walking has its own different benefits to be done in different timings.
So both
Yes.
should be done.
Both should be done according to me.
According, yeah.
But in case, if a mother is feeling tired someday or something, she can skip walking, or she can just simply skip yoga if she's doing something else. Yeah.
Either 2 days yoga, 3 days walking, something like that. They can plan
Yes.
for variety.
Yes.
Yeah. And like how beneficial are these childbirth classes? Because some hospitals provide them, and not every hospital provide these childbirth classes to would-be mothers. So how beneficial are they?
So, childbirth classes again is mostly to increase the quality of your life. Okay, so making you prepared, keeping you mentally prepared of what you are going to go through, right? Usually, once the lady comes into the third trimester, for example, she starts having a heartburn, okay, and that's the pain in her upper abdomen. And the mother panics, thinking what type of pain it is, something is wrong with my baby, and suddenly in that panic, she doesn't feel the movements of the baby. They rush to the hospital, to the emergency, and they want a scan to be done. This happens, right? But if a mother is being told ki, okay, you're going to get into the third trimester, your baby is going to grow now and push your intestines and stomach upwards, your capacity of your stomach reduces, you need to take small frequent meals now. Do not just have one large meal at a time. Break your meals into small frequent meals and have it. And in case if you have that pain, that is mostly because of the acidity. First, what do? Is you walk around a little, take some home remedies for your acidity. Then you might. Then, if the pain still doesn't come down, then you come to the hospital. In most of the cases, what happens, the mother might have something really oily or something which is causing her a heartburn and acidity, right? So, what happens in that complete scenario? The mother panics. The people at home also panic. Especially this happens during Sunday nights. What we see in the hospitals. Okay. So what happens during the weekend? They tend to go out, have heavy meals. At a time they eat a lot, and then again Sunday, a heavy meal is cooked at home as everybody is at home. Something special is made. They have it. Okay, and then they go to sleep. Then literally at late night, okay, at 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., they start having this pain and they panic and they turn out at the hospital. In this scenario, what happens is that the mother doesn't know what it is. You know, she didn't even try to walk around. She just thinks something is wrong with my baby and she comes to the hospital.
Correct.
That's all. But once if she goes to childbirth classes and she's been told, okay, these are the symptoms we are expecting and these are the things first you do at home and then you come to the hospital. Okay, in that way, the mother is also prepared in this reason. She doesn't have to panic and she's able to take care of herself. She's having her mental peace and she knows what to do, when to do, how much to eat, how much not to eat, how to avoid these problems. And then if these mothers keep coming to the hospitals, they keep filling up the emergencies for a small reason which could have been taken care of.
Correct.
So, in this way, they are able to even save up their energy and time as well as for the hospital and the doctors and nurses.
So these classes help a lot. Like they can prevent so many such
exactly. Again, their
unnecessary
preparedness
panic.
in various reasons. Okay, this is just one thing what I told you about, getting acidity, etc. And then, the other reasons during the delivery, a mother comes prepared. Okay, we have been told, okay, fine, when you set into labor, you come up. These are the things you need to get. She comes prepared. Otherwise, no, it's not like a situation where, nobody knows anything, what to do. It is not a situation where you can go with the flow. So the mother will know what to do, what
mentally
not to do.
prepared.
Yes, what to expect, how to feel the contractions. If the contractions are starting, people tend to say, oh, I was in labor, it was so traumatic. I was in labor for 24 hours to 36 hours. And okay, the labor varies for everybody.
Yeah.
And that is an ideal time. You cannot expect, it's not blinket that in 15, 20 minutes or 1 hour you deliver the baby.
Yeah.
Right? Because they don't have the knowledge of it.
Right?
If they go through these classes where they are taught about everything, how to take care, and then during labor, how, what exercises they should do, different pain relief methods, what are the different pain relief options? You have multiple options these days. Okay, once the baby is out, then what? They might be sutured if they're having a normal delivery. They might be vaginal tears or an episiotomy might be given. They should be known. What is happening to their body. Okay, I feel when the mother knows about herself and what she's going through, a portion of healing happens by itself.
Yeah.
When she knows and when she is prepared, rather than just not knowing what is going to happen with her.
So as a part of your maternity, you provide these childbirth classes also.
Yes, we mostly provide online classes and also offline classes. Okay. But the idea is, if you even attend online classes, we are trying to make it very accessible to everybody.
So is it that they have to come to you through a gynecologist or they can connect with you directly after a gynecologist consultation?
So our idea is always that we go through a gynecologist. Okay, so we do not want to break the chain. So first the medical expert comes in line, and then comes the following. So our idea is mostly to go, but a lot of people approach us by themselves also.
Yeah.
So in case if they have a prescription of their doctors that they are fit and are low risk, then we go for it.
And this lactation doctor, like a lot of people are facing problems because either they may be working or undernutritious or something. A lot of problems related to lactation. So how do you help them go through this problem?
So these days, underweight or undernourished mothers are very less. Okay, not at least in a tier 1 city like us. Okay, we find very few mothers who are malnourished or undernourished and are very, very anemic. Okay, the cases of anemia have with time has also come down because everybody is taking proper supplements these days during pregnancy. Lactation is mostly about how you start feeding the baby. Okay, about the reflexes that develops between the mother and the child. Okay, as soon as the baby is born, the cord is clamped and cut and the baby is checked by the pediatrician. We suggest the baby immediately feeds. Is given to the mother and the mother starts breastfeeding it without any delay. Most of the time even the placenta is not out and baby is fine. They start feeding the baby. So as early as possible. The closer the baby is to the mother, okay, immediately. The concept is, giving immediate skin to skin contact, which helps formation of reflexes between the mother and the child, and which increases the breast milk in the mother. Once the reflexes are developed, the breast milk increases by itself. In the beginning, the milk is very less, the colostrum, it comes out, and the quantity is very thick and less. But once the baby starts feeding on, the quantity of milk increases by itself.
Yeah.
These days, we have a lot of supplements also, again, to be prescribed by the doctor. The lactation counselors are here to help the mother to, properly position the baby in before feeding, during sitting, during lying, and how to make the baby latch, how much of the breast, the part of the areola should be going inside the baby's mouth. So these people are there to guide you. They are qualified to guide you. And these lactation counselors are not some high degree holders. You don't have to be a doctor to become or a nurse to become. You should simply be 12th pass to do a course of lactation. And then it is just a certified course. And once you have that certificate of that training, that you have attended that training, you are qualified enough to become a lactation counselor. And these days, a lot of nurses, physiotherapists, and nutritionists are doing this course and are being the lactation experts. The baby is not able to latch properly. And once the mother is not able to do that, teach the baby to do that, then they simply give up.
Yeah.
Or, they are not able to do it. And once if they are not able to feed and, a lot of breast milk is formed, then they start forming lumps and cysts are formed, which then becomes pus formation happens and later leads to a lot of issues.
That's also a big issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And even during that immediate period, they might get infection, fever.
exactly. Once the breast is not emptied, then definitely the mother will have pain and have fever. And now we have the breast banks which take up that milk, they pasteurize it and give it to the babies who are in the NICUs or to the mothers who are not able to breastfeed the babies.
Okay, even
Yeah.
here in Hyderabad, we have all these.
Yes, we do have. Yeah, we do have breast banks in Hyderabad. Fernandez is actively running their breast bank.
Okay.
But again, due to various reasons and myths, etc., it's not that active.
Yeah.
People are not that aware of it.
I've read somewhere in Bangalore, it's very active, like these breast milk banks are very active.
Yeah.
But in Hyderabad, yeah, I think that's helpful. I think they are babies in NICU and all, rather than giving them formula fed milk immediately. Yeah.
In a few, religious practices also, you can actually, if the mother is not able to feed their baby, the other lactating women can also feed their baby. Is there? But now, people do not, people aren't very accepting to it.
Yeah.
Because of various myths. They're like, how can some other lady feed my baby, etc. But then the thing is that actually that helps your baby. Breast milk.
Yeah, to build their immunity and all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Helps out a lot.
Yeah.
A doula. A doula is a nurse a doula is a lady, not even a nurse actually. You don't have to be from a medical background, who is trained to provide support during pregnancy. Okay, so if for example a lady is pregnant and goes to a doula, books her for herself, so a doula is kind of always available, like a one call away person for her, who keeps talking to her for offer all the issues during pregnancy and take care of her during her delivery, during her pregnancy and during her delivery and her postpartum period. She's always there with her, like a support system. She doesn't do anything medically. She doesn't interfere in the process of the delivery or in your, medical procedures or your medical treatment or anything. Nothing. She's just there for the support. A doctor, see, a lady is pregnant and then, suddenly she'll have this doubt that she wants to go out and can she go and do so much of walking at this part of pregnancy? She can't ping a doctor for that, right? Just to ask her, can I walk today?
How many minutes I have to walk?
Exactly.
Just walk a regular walk.
So simply doulas play a role. Okay, they are, again, you can, as lactation counselor, you just have to be 12th pass or graduated in anything, any subject. Okay, you are given a training. It's now various hospitals here are also training doulas. I think there's soon the first batch is going to come out. I really don't know about it. They're just to give you support
Yeah, nice.
for your mental well-being, for your
During
all
pregnancy.
exactly.
And also this nutrition and physiotherapy, all these things, how important are they after delivering the baby, during the postpartum period of the mother?
After they deliver the baby, the abdomen becomes very sag. It hangs like a sack.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like an empty sack. Okay, and it hangs down. It becomes very saggy. The muscles are very stretched and they are loose. Okay, so now when you do physiotherapy, that is when you do regular exercises from time to time during your postpartum period, what happens? Your muscles strengthen up. Okay.
Okay.
What does a bodybuilder do to build muscles? They exercise. The same mechanism applies here. You exercise to strengthen and build your muscles. It's a cesarean. Okay, your muscles are cut open. You exercise and then that's how you heal. You're not going to exercise. Yes, the healing will happen by itself. When you exercise, the healing happens at a speed of 2x.
Oh.
Okay, happens better. The muscle growth happens. The stretch muscles tighten up.
So this postpartum depression and the suicide rates after delivering the baby are increasing, right? So why is PPD still under-addressed?
Yes, because this is very much under addressed because the entire concentration shifts to the baby, and the mother is completely ignored, and she's been told that okay, now it's not about you, it's just about the baby. Till she is pregnant and she is not delivered the baby, they just keep talking about you eat healthy, you take care of yourself, and once the baby is developed, the entire attention shifts to the baby. It's about the baby's health, it's about the baby's well-being. But what about the mother, right? The complete shift of that is a psychology of a woman. Okay, we as women expect to get a lot of attention. That is the nature of a woman, right? As females, we expect to get a lot of attention. That is a psychological thing for us. We want that attention. And the entire attention shifts to the baby. No one even concentrates on you. And they tend to tell you that, okay, this is normal to happen. You're supposed to go through this part. Yes, definitely, this is a part of it. But then it is not being addressed. So that hits everybody. Okay, that is something, the attention what they lack. And suddenly your body goes under a lot of changes. You become pregnant. You put on a lot of weight, you develop stretch marks, there's a lot of pigmentation that happens in your body during pregnancy. Your body undergoes a drastic change. And then you deliver the baby. Again, that is again a drastic change. Okay, as I told you, the abdomen becomes like an empty bag now. It starts hanging down, everything. You lose a part of your beauty. And that is a very important part for a woman. Okay, their body is changing. There are so many hormonal changes that, from within inside, there are so many mood swings, mood changes, and nothing of it is addressed. A lot of celebrities are talking about it these days. And they tell us that, I was holding the baby and I just wanted to throw her away or throw my baby away, right? Why do you get that feeling, right? For example, we have 2 kids, okay? The first child is there and the second child is born. Suddenly there is a shift of attention from the first child to the second child, right? And the first child starts reacting to it, right? They don't like the sibling. They think, okay, my entire attention goes to that. It is simply the same thing over here. But then just because she's an adult and she's supposed to be a mother, you don't address it. You normalize it, telling it is normal. You're as an adult supposed to do that. But at the end of the day, you're a human being. You have your sets of emotions also. And again, your body is physically going through so many changes. So you tend to go into so much of depression. And now if you see, people go into depressions for small reasons. Okay, people are not able to score good. They don't get promotion.
Yeah.
Okay, the lady is going under a big transformation. Physically, emotionally. Now, she has another mini human of hers to take care of, right? She's supposed to give time. She's feeding that baby, okay, every 2 hours. She doesn't have to think about herself, She can't have a regular sleep. How can you not expect in such a condition for a woman to go into depression, right? Nothing is being addressed.
Yeah.
In such situations, when she's not feeling good about her body, she's just feeling like a feeding machine, like a producing machine, and everybody keeps telling her, ki, okay, it's not about you, it's just about the baby now. And in such conditions, the lady will definitely feel depressed. It is obvious.
And I think the gynecologist, once the delivery is over, like nobody addresses or counsels a mother.
Yeah.
There's counsels like about the immunization of the child, on all these things, vaccines and all these things.
Coming to that is the pediatric part of
Ha,
it.
ha.
Okay, we have a pediatrician
Yeah,
who
that
keeps
is
telling
there.
the mother
Yeah.
and everything. So the baby is well taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay, the baby is well taken care of by everybody, by the husband, the father, the grandparents, the extended relatives, be it her sister, anybody. Everybody take care of the baby. But what about the mother? Her well-being matters more to her at that point. That leads her to depression. It is more about your body, your hormonal changes, your changes in the body and everything, rather than about the baby. It's not about the baby, it's about herself, which the people have to understand. People start judging you, you're not enough of a mother, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. You need to understand she's a human being. Two students in a class, okay, one is very intelligent and performs very good. Okay, one child is not able to perform. You can't tell that child, no, you're also 10-year-old and you are also of the same class. You are supposed to do this. By hook or crook, you get 100 on 100. You can't tell that. So it's simply like that. We are also human beings. We also have our shortcomings, right? The mothers are supposed to be supported at this phase rather than judged. Many women do not open up, with this factor of being judged these days. And then once, a lot of these influencers and celebrities, talking about their personal things, they tell about, some are not choosing to be mothers. They have been judged. They have their own things. Okay, what has made them not to come to this factor that they don't want to be mothers? We are judging them, but we're not looking at the other factors. So just because one lady is supposed to do, or ladies from generations have done this, that doesn't mean that we normalize it. Everybody needs that support system. Everybody's mental well-being in every situation matters. Just because you're becoming a mother, that doesn't mean ki your mental health is supposed to be fit and you get some supernatural powers that you've become a mother and you can deal with it. A lot of mothers tell this. I don't know how true this is. I was having so much of pain. I heard the baby's cries and everything vanishes away. How can that happen? How can that happen?
Because after a few seconds or few minutes, if you have a cesarean or episiotomy, the pains will start kicking in again. Yeah, for just a few seconds.
I think that happiness is same for everybody, even if it is the mother or the father. Okay, the mother was feeling the baby, now she can see it physically. The father knew the baby is inside the lady's womb and now he can see physically. The happiness is same for everybody. But practically, it doesn't take away your pain or your physical condition.
Yeah, as you said, women are wired for gaining attention and all this. But unfortunately, the society, especially in India, I think the society makes like wired women as givers, constantly giving attention to others, giving love to others, feeding others, etc., etc. So I think that is also like postpartum phase they are unable to give as much as they were used to give. So I think that also takes a toll on their mental health, maybe.
Yeah. I've seen multiple ladies, especially between this age group of, 22 to 30 years old, the young mothers, they are so happy throughout the pregnancy, delivery and everything. And 1 week later, after the delivery, when they come back for their postnatal checkup, many of them just, want to sit alone with the doctor and they start crying and they start telling, I don't know why I'm feeling like this. I don't feel good about myself. I don't want to see myself in the mirror. Why did she not talk to her parents about it? Why did she have to come out and talk to a doctor about it? Because she's not given enough support at home. Even if she's feeling so, she's been told that no, all the mothers do that. All the women have been doing it, so you also have to do it. It's nothing new. You're not special. Yes, All of us do it. But then we need to step up a little bit and provide good support to her. If, if she's not able to get that support at home, then I think she should get professional help.
Correct.
Where at least she can come out and talk what she's feeling. Maybe talking out will heal her half the way. And then, an expert support and guidance can help her get through this phase.
They will explain how it is, how it can be solved,
Exactly.
what measures she can take, and speaking like multiple visits also will help her. I think a lot of doctors also are unable to diagnose postpartum depression.
See, mostly, what I feel, it is taken up as like tantrums. She's throwing up tantrums. In our Indian society, for a mother-in-law and a husband, it will be like she's throwing up tantrums. Everybody did it. Even my mother, the husband tells that even my mother did it. Even my sister did it. Okay, they were able to absorb that intensity of things. Maybe your wife is not able to. Maybe she needs some support. Maybe it's okay if, as a husband, even if you are becoming a father for the first time, you also don't know. It's overwhelming for everybody. She can get an expert help. People have so much of, taboo of going to a psychiatrist or even a psychologist.
Correct, that's true.
They're thinking, why do I have to, they completely get into the category that she has a mental illness. It's not a mental illness. It's about your mental well-being. It's not that you're going to become a psychiatric patient. It's just that there's a part of your emotions or you're part of you're so emotionally troubled.
Too much on you,
Yes.
like a baby, you, and it's completely new, and not having a proper support system also, which takes care of you, of the mother
Yes.
first. Because I've seen a lot of women who come from nuclear family or who come from broken families or come from such things. They are the ones who go through PPDs
Yeah.
a lot. I mean, majority. Like these
Yes.
days, like everyone is going through PPD. Like one of my friends had not even PPD. It was like PPP, postpartum psychosis. These are
Today's
very
day
much-
and age, women are competing equally with men. Okay, if men are becoming CEOs or heading the companies, even women are doing it. Such type of breaks, even if you say a minimum of, 6 months of maternity leave, she is completely taking a break off. Okay, world changes in 6 months.
Yeah.
In a month, the world changes. In 2020 January, we didn't have COVID, and in
Correct.
March, we had COVID. We had lockdown.
Yeah.
So you don't know what is going to happen next. She's completely giving a pause after working so much. Okay, even that is going on behind her head.
Yeah.
Okay, 6 months later, how will I cope up? Now I'm going to have a baby. Okay, I'll be leaving the baby at home or with the caretaker, and I'll be going to work. There'll be a lot of things. Will it be the same when I join back work? Will I, be able to do things the same? A lot of things attached to a woman,
Yeah.
which nobody is addressing it.
Yeah.
They think, no, she has to be a superpower
Superwoman.
and superwoman and do everything.
Yeah. So I think that's where like such value added services help a lot, like from
Yeah.
the time of attaining menarche till menopause, because there are a lot of issues where every doctor can't address, and every person in your family also can't understand in the
And they
first
don't
place.
have to.
Yeah,
Okay, see, the husband, whatever his profession is, he is not an expert.
correct.
Sometimes,
correct.
For the mother, the sister, the husband, the mother-in-law, it can be overwhelming for them also.
True, that's true.
Right.
Mm.
So, you need to go to the right person.
Yeah, regarding this mommy makeover, so a lot of like with the social media hype and all, a lot of women want to have this, like come back to the same body they had before pregnancy and all.
Yeah.
So how do you?
Mommy makeover, the term is mostly brought out by this cosmetic surgeons.
Okay.
Where they do their boob lifting, they do the liposuction to remove the extra fat during pregnancy, and if there are stretch marks, the laser treatments for that. So the mommy makeover is complete that.
Okay.
So mommy makeover is not just about getting yourself a cosmetic treatment, or not everybody can afford it. So now we want to bring out this thing as mommy makeover, where we help your body heal naturally through diet, exercise, through all the holistic care, through lifestyle changes, and has to be taken care from day one. So that is what we want to introduce, bring awareness about. Mommy makeover is probably, the cosmetic term what they have brought around. Yeah.
Like new mothers need not be pressurized, like they have to go, like they should not have the FOMO. Rather than
Yeah.
that, they should focus on change of habits slowly, step by step, to get back to their
See,
healthier
now
self.
you're going to get a liposuction done. Tomorrow you're going to gain back this weight again if you don't keep yourself maintained. If you don't keep yourself in discipline, you will again. How many times will you get a liposuction done?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that is there. So mainly we support the mommy makeover, but not in a cosmetic way, but through a natural way, in a very holistic way.
That is better and long term also. It's
That
healthy.
brings in discipline in yourself, so
Yeah.
that you maintain out. That improves the quality of your life, and you're very satisfied with yourself.
And now, as we have discussed all these, so where do you think the Indian healthcare system, there's a gap? I mean, I understood there's a lot of gap.
There is a lot of gap. Okay, the government, the ministry is trying a lot. They have introduced a lot of schemes for maternal health. We have the lot of schemes which are coming up each day. We have the nutrition part which is coming under Anemia Mukt Bharat. In that scheme, the mothers are given proper nutrition guidance. So a lot of similar schemes are coming up to improve the health of the mother. Okay, now they're training midwives. There are a lot of places still in India where, there are no doctors, especially in villages run by RMPs and all. So the government is making a point to train these people,
Okay.
like nurses, training them to be midwives, so that they can handle a case of a normal delivery in absence of a doctor for a low risk mother again. And now they're removing schemes where food is being sent out for these pregnant women, supplements are being given out. The government is putting in a lot of efforts, and despite the gap is still there a lot. The government at their sector in the government hospitals is trying to bridge the gap in a lot of ways, trying to put a lot of rules and regulations for the private hospitals also, but then again the gap exists.
Yeah.
Coming to the doctor fraternity, mostly it is about one man show. The gynecologist doesn't want to form a team. If you mostly see at a lot of places, the gynecologist is alone. We have very few team-based hospitals. Okay, the gynecologist or any doctor still wants the patient to come to them only
Yeah.
for any problem.
Yeah.
They feel they are losing out on consultations if all of these other professions pop up. But it's not like that. They're just here to support you and enhance your services. So I feel that is where, the biggest gap, I think that is in the mentality of the profession. Maybe. I might be wrong also. Now in tier 1 cities, in again tier 1 hospitals, a lot of these services have been introduced, put out as facilities what the hospital is providing as on a premium level, showing that how are we different as. That's all. You come down to tier 2, tier 3 hospitals, nothing. No, they do not want. I've been approaching a lot of gynecologists. And first of all, they, when they understand the concept of it, they think it's necessary, but they deny, telling, no, we don't have a space, we can't take it up. But I know in background, they do not want the show to be, the limelight to be divided. Other few people do not address it, okay, because, see, if you're telling the patient is given a lot of progesterone medications, injections, and put on bed rest, telling that they have to do bed rest completely. And, again, they're not promoted towards all these things. So that the more the patient has issues, the more the hospital gains, the more the doctor gains. So in that way, they're commercializing it.
Yeah.
So they know that, if you are going to promote these services, what happens? That, they lose out on a lot of other ends. But given not all doctors are like this, only a very few sector of doctors are there. And yes, they are there who are doing this. A lot of, older gynecologists, whom I have approached, and I have told them, okay, so, there was a gynecologist, I had approached her and I had told her about the childbirth classes. So she's like, oh yeah, that's a nice concept and everything. And then she told, I want to know what your trainers, your experts are going to talk to my patients in your childbirth classes. And then when we showed her the material, the documents, she striked out most of the points. She didn't want us to tell all those points. She's like, no, my patients will not go through this. How can you tell my patient to do this type of exercise? When we are showing her the evidence that, yes, this is medically being proven for a low risk mother to follow. She was like, no, but my patient will not do that. Personally, the doctors are not very welcoming to these services. Again, secondly, the patients are not aware about it.
Yeah.
Patients are completely dependent on the doctor. If the doctor tells, then only they go for it. And again, personally, they are not aware of it. There is no awareness which is created in the society yet. So because of that, also the gap persists. And I think over the time, a lot of these schemes might create awareness and we might come down.
Yeah, I think doctors and especially gynecologists should be more open and flexible to the new systems which are coming up. Because as you said earlier, NHS and all, they have all these services included in their hospital or system. And I stayed in UK for 2 years. So I've observed that there were very less morbidities among women. Like their women were very fit in spite of them doing all their household work, lack of lesser help system, lesser support system, but still a lot of women were so healthy and fit and all. And the same, I come to India and like as we are doctors, like everyone, every day you get a call from your relative, stomach pain, this pain, everything. So like we just have to give them. So there's a lot of like, and there in UK also it was Indian women only I was observing. No sickness, no nothing and all, no morbidities. Like even after having children, even while they're going through perimenopause and all those things, they were very healthy. Just because, as you said, they like not only the medical advice during delivery and all, they were given that physiotherapy, emotional support system and all those things. I think that will reduce the morbidity, reduce the sickness in women.
The system there is improving every day. And the people are made aware of it and the people are also accepting it. That is the difference. See, if you say here, sort of taboos are there, right? And they go to these traditional healers or, non-allopathy doctors, okay? That fields are expert in their own ways, but there's a limit. So they go to these traditional healers and keep taking these kind of medicines and whatever they keep telling them. And they do not. See, I'll tell you one thing. My friend's mother who had delivered, like this was long ago during my childhood. At that time, we didn't understand a lot of things. Okay, but now when I recall it, she delivered and she was not asked to drink a lot of water because that will help her put on weight. She was not asked to talk much. They had this thingy, if the air will go inside the mother and will fill her up. Okay, and then they had a limited diet. I think these are all taboos. Mother is supposed to drink a lot of water. Any person is supposed to drink a lot of water. And what is there in not talking? The air is going to go inside. So again, a lot of these, taboos, religious taboos are there. My watchman's wife, she delivered. And then I literally saw her after a gap of 30 days or something. And then she was so thin and looking so sick. And when I asked her what happened, what are you eating? And what's wrong with you? Are you sick? Are you going through any issue and all? She's like, no, we're just supposed to eat chili with rice. Chili powder, we mix it with ghee, rice and we eat, that's all. 30 days that lady did not eat anything except rice with the chili powder. It's definite that she is not. How can one person eat only that food continuously 3 times a day for 30 days? That showed that she wasn't eating properly. And she wasn't allowed to eat because of the religious taboos. The society is also very constricting, like self-constrictions are, papaya has vitamin A and has nothing to do with abortion. Pregnant women are not allowed to eat papaya. It's got nothing to do. Pineapple. Women do not eat pineapple during pregnancy. It has so much, pineapple, if you have a slice before eating your food, especially during pregnancy, prevents acidity and bloating to a large extent. But they are told not to eat that because it might cause abortion. So people follow so many of such taboos, that restricts themselves from accepting newer things,
Mm.
especially with exercise and diet. And this is where, they are not realizing there's no benefit out of it, but they are facing the losses.
What inspired you to build Metanita, and was there any inspiring moment or anything that triggered you to build this company?
I have worked in Tier 1 5-star hospital, and also, we have worked in our medical college hospitals, and I had run my own nursing home, which was a 15-bedded nursing home where people of low socioeconomic strata used to come, where we used to do a cesarean in 15,000.
Okay.
So now when I had worked in two different places, I had seen a large gap. These people at a Tier 1 hospital are exposed to these services, showing that, this is a luxury you deserve. And when I come down to these hospitals, it's only about producing a child like you're making a product. You need to go through this 1, 2, 3 steps, 1, 2, 3 tests are to be done. You're supposed to eat this, not, on a very vague background being told to them. And at the end, either it's going to be a normal delivery or a cesarean. If it's a normal delivery, there is no relief method for them. So when I started, you meet a lot of colleagues, and then you start doing your research work. And then when I understood, when there are so many of the graduates out there who are jobless and can provide these services, why are they not being given jobs at these platforms? Those people are ready to work as the least salary possible just to get a job, right? So where everywhere there is a gap, so at everywhere when there is a gap where everybody is there, but they are not just filling it in just because of the hierarchical system, most probably, just because certain people are not welcoming to those services, and that is a necessity. Certain people are using to show out, to promote their hospitals, their services, and showing it out as a premium and luxury service. And some people, they don't want to lose their hierarchy. They're not letting in these services. Very doable thing, what I thought. And just to create awareness. So once we start creating this awareness among doctors that, this is going to enhance their service. There are so many women which will be helped out. Even if they are poor from a low socioeconomic strata, they need this. Just like they need the iron tablets, they also need this. It's not just that we cure their anemia. There's a lot of things to it.
So that's how you felt the need to start and take initiation.
Yes. Mostly, when I felt this gap and when I felt it's doable. When a Tier 1 hospital can do a cesarean in 1 lakh and a Tier 3 hospital can do a cesarean in 15,000. These services, which are given at a premium cost, can also be brought down. When a surgical procedure is being brought down and done at such a basic price, then these services are just a very minor, welcoming them, accepting them. That's all.
What is your vision and where you want to take Metanita for the next 5 years?
So in the next 5 years for Metanita, we mostly want to concentrate on as many as possible Tier 1 hospitals, nursing homes and clinics, and bring about this awareness among people. Just about, developing my company. It's about bringing a change in the society, bringing a change for women. I just don't want, the motherhood or the womanhood to be survived. I want it to be cherished and, live a normal life like any other human being. At least in the next 5 years, I want every woman, maximum, I can't say every woman, but, at least maximum hospitals and nursing homes in Hyderabad, at least, addressing to these services.
Thank you, doctor, for coming all the way to our studio and sharing about your company. And it's quite impressive the way you started the company for the well-being of the women. And I think a lot of men-related problems are discussed and researched, and millions of dollars of funds are provided for their problems, but women-related issues are very neglected and overlooked. So I think such companies like you should come up and take care of women's health. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's very kind of you to invite me, give this opportunity to come forward, and I want to create as much as awareness. Thank you so much. Thank you.